Let me just state this for the record right off the bat. I'm no big fan of the Dallas Cowboys at all. I hate so much about the Dallas Cowboys and what they represent. In particular, what I really don't like is how the national sports media perpetuates this cycle where it's Cowboys 24/7 and how the NFL always makes sure that they feature the Dallas Cowboys in a primetime spot strictly because of the fan base that they have, whether they merit it or not. And the Cowboys, more often than not, get way more coverage and discussion than they actually merit and deserve. I think it's a fair reason not to like them. And I think, frankly, that's a reason why a lot of fans that aren't Cowboys fans hate the Dallas Cowboys. And in some ways, they're America's team and that whole stupid crap, and they're the team that everybody reacts to. Either you love them or you hate them, and everybody thinks that Star Spangled Awesome, whatever. However, with that said, I really enjoyed watching the Dallas Cowboys in 2014. They were one of my favorite teams to watch all season. I thought this was a team that did a lot of good things and did things the right way. For an older fan like me, I love seeing a team that had their philosophy on offense built around the running game. And DeMarco Murray had an MVP caliber season to me and is my choice for National Football League Most Valuable Player in 2014. You had Tony Romo himself, who I thought, not so much just statistically, but all around had his best season as an NFL starting quarterback, coming off of a very serious back injury where people were questioning whether or not this guy could still play at a high level in the National Football League, and he clearly answered those questions. You've got one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Dez Bryant. I love his passion and enthusiasm for the game and the fact that he seems to show up so often for his team in big-time spots. This big physical offensive line with a lot of first-round picks invested into that offensive line. A really hard-working all-around tight end like Jason Witten, one of those real unsung heroes of the Dallas Cowboys for so many years. A head coach in Jason Garrett, who for so many years has been beleaguered and rightfully so, but this year admitted that the way they've done things in the past was wrong, was flawed, was broken, and that the philosophy had to change. And they were very successful because of it. Maybe the best pure coaching job in the NFL in 2014 was done by Rod Marinelli on the defensive side of the ball with what was still a less than talented Dallas Cowboys defense. There were a lot of things to like about this team. They were going out there, they were playing smash mouth football, they were finding ways to win games that in past years they would lose. They finished 4-0 in December. There were a lot of things to like about this team. But then they played the Detroit Lions in the wild card round in Dallas, and wouldn't you know, here comes the conspiracy talk about the Cowboys. And the NFL loves the Cowboys, and they're going to make sure that they do everything they can to help the Cowboys get to the Super Bowl because that's what the NFL needs and that's what the NFL wants. And look, at the end of the day, I fully believe that the NFL would want and feel like they need the Dallas Cowboys to run as deep into the playoffs as they possibly can, perhaps making it all the way to Super Bowl 49. But I thought this whole talk of a Cowboys conspiracy was ridiculous. I understand that the Dallas Cowboys benefited greatly from several missed calls by the officials in that wild card game last Sunday. There's no question about that. But to sit there and say that the Dallas Cowboys are the only ones that have benefited or been affected by bad officiating all year is completely and totally ridiculous. And it's not like the Detroit Lions didn't get some beneficial calls in that game as well. And all the while, the focus shifting away from the fact that the Lions had a couple of big leads in that game and they pissed them away, that their play calling in the second half led a lot to be desired. And all of these different factors, instead of focusing on Tony Romo playing a great game and the offense of the Dallas Cowboys stepping up and showing up when they needed to, the Cowboys defense making a big play or two when they needed to, it became about the officiating, which is appropriate when we're talking about the 2014 NFL season, frankly. So now we get to the divisional round. It's Ice Bowl 2 and all this other garbage that the media wanted to put out there instead of just talking about the fact that this was a great, compelling matchup with two teams that really don't like each other in the Dallas Cowboys and Green Bay Packers. You've got Tony Romo versus Aaron Rodgers. You've got DeMarco Murray versus Eddie Lacy. You have that great offensive line of the Cowboys going up against Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers and so on and so forth. How are the Cowboys going to contend with Dez Bryant? How is that vulnerable Cowboys secondary going to match up against Cobb and freaking Jordy Nelson? This had all the makings of being a great playoff game, and it ultimately was the best, in my opinion, of the playoff games in the divisional round. No disrespect to the Ravens and Patriots on Saturday night. But this game was, in so many ways, what I expected it to be. It truly lived up to the billing, and it was a classic. And it's only appropriate that just like with this NFL season, so much of this game will be forgotten about because the focus will be on officiating and what many perceive to be a bad blown call. Here's what I don't understand, is that so many in the media and so many sports fans can't clearly understand the difference between what is a dumb, shitty, bad rule and what is a bad, shitty call, an interpretation of a rule. So, big difference. Me personally, while I don't smoke marijuana, I can't stand the crap. I think the fact that it's illegal is ridiculous and stupid, especially when alcohol and cigarettes are legal, things that are proven to kill you. It's a dumb rule. It's a dumb law. But if somebody gets arrested and thrown in jail for selling a pound of that crap, while I might not like it and I don't agree with the rule, I don't agree with the law because the law is dumb, is flawed, is broken in my opinion, it was the correct call to arrest and imprison that individual based off of the law as it is to be interpreted, as the law is set up, as the rule is, the rule of law. And in this case, of course, you've got this big 4th and 2 play. Tony Romo shows a tremendous amount of guts, makes this beautiful, brilliant throw to Dez Bryant down the left sideline. And it looks like Dez Bryant's made this great big catch. And we could be talking about the Cowboys going on to the NFC Championship game to face the Seahawks in Seattle, a place that they had already won earlier this year. And imagine the possibilities. It's another week of a Cowboys circle jerk, if you will. Except for the fact that while everybody, especially the commentators, Aikman and Buck, were tripping over themselves on how awesome this play was, they missed the fact that Dez Bryant didn't actually catch the ball. And he didn't. The referees, for once this season, actually got the call right. And of course, the one time that they actually get the call right is something that seems so incredibly ridiculous and so incredibly stupid that everybody is still shitting on them and crapping all over them for how incompetent and blind and stupid they are. But they're not incompetent, blind, and stupid. This is the one instance where you could point to and say that they got it right, and they clearly did. This is the Calvin Johnson rule, and if you don't know what that is, look it up. If you don't understand it, I will explain it one more time. It doesn't matter whether Dez Bryant had 2 feet down, he took 5 steps, or 6 steps. The way the rule is structured is that in the process of falling down, which Dez Bryant was, and even when the ball was out, when he placed the arm down to brace himself, not reaching for the freaking pylon, there is a distinct difference that you could clearly see. The ball hit the ground and came up. At that point in time, Dez Bryant, whether you agree with it or not, you like the rule or not, did not complete the process of the catch. He did not make the catch, maintain possession all the way through the process of the catch, and then make a football move. Therefore, rightfully, the call is an incomplete pass. This is the rule. Look, I agree. The rule is stupid. This is dumb. What more did Dez Bryant have to do to catch the damn ball? I personally think it's ridiculous. I think it's stupid. And this is a rule that I thought years ago should have been changed after the Calvin Johnson situation in that opening game of the season against the Chicago Bears. That rule should have changed after that season. But several years later, it is still the rule. And based off of the rule that is in place, no matter how much the Cowboy fans and other people don't want to get this and don't seem to understand this, bad rule doesn't mean bad call. Based off of the rule, this was the correct call. This goes back to the whole leaping crap many years back with the Colts and Bucks in that Monday night game, if you remember. Stupid, dumb, terrible rule. But based off of the rule in place, the referees made the right call 100% of the way, and they clearly did here again. There is no argument. There is no dispute. The fact that so many people that supposedly should know better, NFL players, former coaches, freaking officials. Actually, not the officials. They seem to be the only one that gets it right. But former players, former coaches, media members, people that are supposed to allegedly know that should know better, clearly don't know better, is astounding to me. Pick up an NFL rulebook, knuckleheads. It clearly states it in there. He did not complete the process of the catch, period. Incomplete pass in a season full of officiating blunders and referee incompetence. This is one of the few things that they actually got freaking right. And of course, one of the few things they actually got freaking right is one of the biggest things that people will be bitching and moaning and pissing about all off season. And that's the way it is. I could say this is that it takes those Cowboys conspiracy theories and blows them out of the fucking water, doesn't it? I could sit there and say, well, the NFL and the referees knew the people would be watching them, so they couldn't let this happen. And maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case if you want to look that deeply into it. But really, honestly, this takes that Cowboys conspiracy crap and blows it out of the water. Because once that happened, this game is over. When you make that call, when you overturn that ruling of a catch, that game is over. And also maybe it's karma coming to collect. Maybe if the Cowboys don't get several beneficial calls from themselves from the officials, they don't find themselves in this spot, in this situation against the Green Bay Packers. I find it funny how so many Cowboys fans and Cowboys defenders were very quiet on the subject last week and trying to defend against the Cowboys conspiracy talk and trying to sit there and point out bad calls on both sides all throughout the game. But now here that it affects their team, it's magically different and they're full of fandom bullshit and now the world's out to get them and everybody hates the fucking Dallas Cowboys. Like I said, I feel bad for the Dallas Cowboys in the sense that I thought they deserved better than this. Because this is a great game. This was a great matchup. This was a great timeless playoff game, and it will ultimately be sullied and ruined by this one call. It will be the thing that we remember. Instead of talking about Aaron Rodgers' great performance or DeMarco Murray showing up and playing big, instead of talking about this and talking about that, this is the crap that we're ultimately going to be talking about, and that's a damn shame. But unfortunately, it perfectly suits the NFL of 2014 and this season because that's exactly what the narrative and the discussion has been. It's a shame. It sucks. But once again, I need to emphasize, whether people understand this or not, a bad rule doesn't mean it's a bad call. I agree. The rule is bad. It's dumb. It's stupid and ridiculous and should have been changed years ago. But based off of the rule that's in place, the call was correct. Don't get mad at the officials for making the call because for once they actually did their freaking jobs well. Get mad at the people that put these rules in place that make something like what Dez Bryant did not a catch. This is entirely different from early on in the game. I know the wise-ass Cowboy fans are going to bring up the Randall Cobb situation. That fits into the Bert Emanuel rule, and if you don't understand that rule, again, pick up an NFL rule book and fucking read it. Don't sit there and come at me with this shit about how I don't know the rules. No, clearly you don't know the fucking rules. If you think what Dez Bryant did was actually a catch based off of the NFL rules, you're a moron. It wasn't a catch, accepted. There were so many other opportunities for the Cowboys to put this game away, for them to be able to win this game, that it's a ridiculous notion to say that this one single play cost them any fucking ways. It was a big game. It was a momentum-changing thing. And it ultimately was the nail in the coffin for the Dallas Cowboys against the Green Bay Packers. There's no question about it. But it wasn't the only reason the Dallas Cowboys lost here. And it's not even the biggest reason that the Dallas Cowboys lost. And to assert that this was a bad call is completely stupid, period.